What is going on? Welcome back to the DadWise podcast. Today we talk with Jeff Zaugg. He is the founder of Dad Awesome, the website, and the podcast, and the Instagram page, and also Fathers for the Fatherless, which is bike rides, Spartan races, all sorts of manly challenges that fathers get together and do to raise money for the fatherless. We talk about all things fatherhood, obviously, and talk about his journey in leading men and how to stay present with his children and kind of the adventures that they're going on in their life right now. It's a great podcast, great conversation. Excited for you guys to listen to it. So here we go. All right, what's going on? Here with Jeff Zaugg. Is that how you say your last name, Zaugg?
Yeah, you nailed it. You think dog, but with a Z, so you nailed it. Well done.
Z-A-U-G-G, yeah. Excited to talk to you today. Just kind of the whole point of this podcast is to just glean wisdom from dads around the world. And so excited to chat with you about your platform. It's called Dad Awesome if you're on Instagram or YouTube or wherever. And also Fathers for the Fatherless is another one of your projects, and I'd love to talk about that. But first, will you just tell us where you're at and how many kids you have, a little background about who you are?
Yeah, awesome. Isaac, thanks for having me on. I am a dad of 4 little girls. So the oldest is 9, the youngest is 2. We currently have rented out our house. We're from Minnesota, but our house has been rented for most of the last 2 years. And we've been living in an RV and traveling the country. So home is wherever we park, I guess, for the last couple of years. But yeah, coming at you today from Minnesota.
Minnesota. Cool. So you got 9 to 2. I have 7 and then 1 being born in a couple months. So I'm like 2 years behind you. So I've got 4, but 1's not here yet. So we're in the 4 children gang.
Yes, so, congrats with baby coming.
Yeah, thanks. Are you guys done? Are you done with 4? Is that kind of the sweet spot, you think?
You know, we are one step at a time. We're still overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed with 4 right now, and just like thankful for the 4. They're treasures, they're gifts. But we have not said absolutely no go. My wife probably is like 99.9% no more children, and I'm like 50-50. Let's add another. Let's go. So that's the side of it.
Yeah, my wife just hates being pregnant. Everything else is great, but the whole 9-month process is rough for her. So I'm like, deal. I can't force you to do it again, but cool. So I want to talk a little bit about your Dad Awesome. How long have you been doing this, and what was kind of the genesis of this project?
Sure. Yeah, I'll hit the questions backwards. So the genesis was I was sitting with my cousin on a patio of a house in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he looked me in the eyes and said, "Hey, how do you stay so intentional about being a dad?" So he perceived that I was a pretty intentional dad. I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old at the time. So little kids, and his perception is like this guy is pretty intentional. I thought about the question instead of just answering and making something up on the fly. I was like, you know what? If I look at the inputs in my life, this is 5.5 years ago. The inputs in my life were I wasn't reading any books on fatherhood, never listened to a podcast about intentional fatherhood, never been a part of a small group of guys who get together to try to grow, never had a coach or a mentor in the area of fatherhood, never did an online course or go to a conference on it. So I had not my inputs. If you looked at my inputs, I was not being an intentional dad. If you put it alongside of other areas I was trying to grow in, I just was having a good time being a young dad, and he perceived it. So that was the genesis moment. Was I started looking for resources after that conversation. I said, I want this to be an area of my life that I'm intentional, and I want to be able to answer that question with, well, these are some things that I'm doing. And in looking for resources, the best way that I learn is I lead while learning. So I just said, well, I'll just curate and create 10 podcast episodes. They're actually short little YouTube videos. I was like, I'll just create 10. And in the process of creating 10 kind of dad values, I learned a bunch while creating, and I shared them with just my friends. I wasn't sharing on social media, just with my friends. And then I had nothing else to say. After 10 episodes, I had nothing else.
That's pretty much it.
That's all I got. So so I started interviewing other guests, and
Cool.
I've stuck with it for 5.5 years. I think at the time we're recording today, this morning, episode 284 weeks of, every week a podcast with Dad Awesome. So I've learned a lot. I've actually learned that I have a lot more to learn. So it's amazing when you dedicate yourself to a topic, a subject matter, you realize how little you know. So 5.5 years in, I'm like, man, I need to give it at least 5.5 more years because I have so much more to grow and learn. And so that's the Genesis story.
That's awesome. So is this your full-time gig, or are you working while traveling, or how's that work out for you?
Great question. So it was it started as a passion project, still is a passion project. I do it because of deep love for the area, deep love for my 4 girls, deep love for this helping other dads. The podcast Dad Awesome and the resources we've created, none of it has been monetized. So it's just done for the love of the subject matter and for the love of these kids and helping dads. But I did start a second side, which is Fathers for the Fatherless, these events. And that forced me, because of growth, to go full-time about 2 years ago. So I basically did it all as a side passion project for the first 3 years. And then the last couple of years, I've gone now full-time into Dad Awesome and Fathers for the Fatherless, and because of the event side.
I love it. So what are those events? What's the Fathers for the Fatherless events?
Yeah, cool. So we found after about a year of Dad Awesome, by we, everything I create is with friends. So we're always learning together. I happen to be the guy who is on the microphone, but it's we. We found that about half of the guys that we knew, even if I looked at my brother or other friends, about half of the guys were engaged with Dad Awesome. We were doing a daily text message, just an encouraging nudge. We were doing the podcast every week, did some small group curriculum for local churches, and about half of the dads were saying, I want to learn and grow with you guys, but half were not interested. And so then this idea jumped into our hearts, my heart, of let's mobilize men towards action instead of learning. If the felt need is be more intentional, I want to be a more intentional dad, I want to sit with others and talk about fatherhood. There's just a lot of guys that need to be nudged into action instead of content, digesting content. So we said, well, let's do something hard, and let's actually activate. It started as just dads, but now it's for all men. We said, what if we as men do something very hard to help fatherless kids? So now the felt need is, I want to help kids that don't have a dad, and I want to do something hard in brotherhood. So we said, well, hard would be, let's bike 100 miles. That was year one. This is 5 years ago. So we're heading into our 5th year of Fathers for the Fatherless. We bike 100 miles. We do super Spartan races. So these are the longer ones with more obstacles. We do triathlons. We've done a trail run. We have dreams about doing a golf event, 100 holes of golf in one day. We have other things, but we want to do, they have to be hard events that take 2 to 3 months of training. We want to put time in to train and be ready. And then we want it to be something that we're suffering. We're actually doing something hard because the cause, being without a dad is, I grew up with a dad. I can't put myself in that place. And there's the partners that we serve. We raise money for global and local partners who are in a place of experiencing fatherlessness. And so in doing so, we've seen, the men on our team, about 800 now, have done a Fathers for the Fatherless events. Their lives are changed. And then we've had a chance now to raise about $750,000 for these causes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Are you guys coming to the Northwest?
So there's some conversations about an event in Portland. We are the Zaugg family, my family. Our RV trip, we're planning to come to the Northwest, but we don't have an event locked in yet. There's a huge cycling community up there, and Spartans have the obstacle course races. But we play the long game. So usually we travel, we meet people, meet friends, and then we don't try to rush launching new events. We really want a team of about 5 men in that area to say, we want to own this, we want to grow this, we want to pick who the money goes to locally. We have a fixed global partner, but locally, we let the local team decide where those dollars are going. And so none of my salary comes out of any of the money raised for the fatherless. That all comes out of another bucket. So we're really thankful to get to be a part of it.
Nice. So who's the national partner that you guys partner with?
Yeah, they've been doing incredible work. They're called Venture. Venture.org is the website, and they do work in Southeast Asia primarily. That's where our focus is, Myanmar. So where civil war has just caused, it was about 1 million fatherless kids. Now it's about 10 million kids find themselves in the place of fatherlessness. So they're our global partner. We help with meals and protection, safety, clothing, shelter for them.
Venture.org. I'm going to write stuff down while we talk.
Cool.
So is that mostly orphan work? Is that kind of the idea? And then is the local stuff more like in the foster care community? Is that kind of how it goes, or is it just whatever?
Isaac, that's been our heart. The primary focus of Global has been through venture orphan care. I learned just recently that there aren't orphans. There are kids that are experiencing, fatherlessness because they're not orphans. I've just learned this, that like I want to be careful with how I describe. And the kids, there's no such thing as foster kids. There are kids that are in foster care. I've just learned this. This is like brand new. I'm like, whoa, crazy. So foster kids that find themselves in the foster care, specifically kids that don't have any relative to go home to. They're a ward of the state. Their parental rights have been terminated. We help. Our primary partner helps create video reels to share their stories and then help them get adopted into forever homes. So yeah, we love our partners, and our local teams prayerfully get to choose which nonprofit partner who's directly serving the fatherless we get to give those dollars to.
Awesome. I love it. So I'm not a biker. I do I just got a mountain bike, but if you do a Spartan thing in Portland, that's close enough for me to get down there. So I would have to train a little bit for it, but I think I could do it. I've been doing CrossFit the last few months, so.
Yes. Well, all you have to do is, again, find 4 other dudes and pick an event. Go on the Spartan website, pick an event, and then give me a call and say, let's go, and we'll promote it. And I might fly up and join you guys. Like, it really is a pretty simple deal to activate an event. Originally, with the bike rides, you had to do a lot of volunteer recruiting and create your route and everything. Now we've made it a lot easier to launch at least a first-year event, so.
Yeah, so you just jump in with an event and you get matching T-shirts. Is that part of the gig?
So we've got a cool partner, Pactimo. They're a cycling company, but they do running shirts that we wear for the Spartans, and they're out of Colorado, and they give us crazy discounts. So it's sweet gear. Yeah. And then actually the amount of people who asked, we did a triathlon on Father's Day weekend here in the Twin Cities, and we were the largest team. We showed up with 30 dudes, and they were all like, everyone was coming. It was like a magnetic draw. People wanted to know, tell me about the mission. Tell me about, who are you guys? And tell me about this mission you guys are going after. So it's pretty cool. The Spartan community embraced us. We did an event in Jacksonville last year looking at Phoenix, and then we're looking in the Northwest with you, Isaac. Yes.
That's awesome. That's so great because it feels like it's hard to get dads on board, but you can ask a dad like, hey, do you want to come learn for a little bit? And they're like, I don't know. But then you invite them to come suffer, and they're like, oh yeah, I want to suffer for something. So I love that. It just taps into the masculine energy of you want to get out and do something. So that's
exactly.
Awesome.
And it's habit stacking. We need this as you're about to have your 4th kid, Isaac. Like, we need to stack our habits. So if you're stacking mission, so you're helping the fatherless, you're stacking fitness, you're stacking friendship time, you're stacking just doing something fun, like doing something epic. Like, you're stacking these things. All of a sudden, your kids, and you're stacking an event that your kids get to go cheer for you. So they get to see. It's not something that you're gone. They just can't ever see dad. They actually know, hey, like, man, dad's stronger. He's doing something hard. He's doing something for a good cause. He's doing something with friends. Like, so this is how it makes sense to take time away from our family to train and go do these things if it hits all those felt needs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about like fitness? Have you always been kind of into fitness, and how has that affected your journey as a father?
So the dad bod, right? Dad bod. I'm the heaviest I've ever been today in my entire life. The RV trip was not, and by heaviest, I'm a pretty skinny dude. So, but the reason I bring it up is I am not naturally into fitness. I don't want to pay money for a gym membership. I would much rather watch the new Ant-Man on Disney Plus than go do something hard. But for me, I have to commit to something, and then I have to rally some other people to commit to the same thing. Then I won't let them down. I won't let these other people down. So years ago, I was like, and I encourage all men to do this, like, pick the thing you want to take ground in, you want to grow in, and then commit to it. And start a group or commit to an event and invite other people in, and then you'll stick with your commitment. If you're the catalyst, especially if you're the guy who goes and says, I picked the event, I signed us up, and I invited others in, you're not going to quit. You're going to follow through. So like I did that I did a Murph workout a couple of years ago, except for instead of wearing a vest, we did the weight of our kids, and I invited our Dad Awesome community in, and 18 guys said yes. So I can't quit because 18 guys joined my idea. So I had to do the event. I had to do the full Murph. And it's crazy. I did not do the push-ups or the squats every set and the pull-ups with a kid on me, but I did at least a set of every single thing. And I did the runs, the full run with my daughter on my shoulders. So anyways, awesome. All that to say, I think if you get some guys to join you and then commit to it, then that's how I stay in shape. So I'm just always picking the next challenge and I'm committing to it. And I had never ridden a bike more than 40 miles. I'd never worn spandex. Okay. Like I'm not a serious cyclist at all. Yeah. And yet now I've done 9 Century bike rides. I have a pretty nice bike now. It's crazy. Like show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Well, I just happened to invite my friends into doing bike rides and now I'm a cyclist, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was going to say, I'm not a cyclist, but I guess I could probably learn. It's not too late.
Well,
jump in on it.
Be careful. If you commit to a cause and you commit to it with friends, you'll end up becoming one. Look out.
That's awesome. So did you start out with this community of men around you, or did you build this as you went, or how did that work for you?
So I've always tried to pull men together to do deeper work, just to do something deeper of significance. So that's been through a local church, that's been around a cause of helping a single mom, or that's been around fitness. Like I mentioned, we did a top of a parking ramp. A guy showed up with tractor tires, and we were climbing ladders and flipping tires and sledgehammering tires. Like we just do epic things. But if it's with guys, that group was like half the dudes were divorced in that group. It was just like a really welcoming group for guys who were going through a hard time. And So I've just always men, and because I need it. Like if I don't have a group of men that I'm doing something with, that I'm gonna struggle. Like the slippery slope, the gravitational drift is in the direction of apathy. It's of selfishness. It's of not reading books. It's not reading the Bible. It's not getting stronger. Like that's my drift if it's just me. Right. So I have to get men around me. And so I've always been drawn in that direction. It's been mostly through local church, but through neighborhood as well, or where I work. I'm just I try to rally people towards something of more significance, and then I get the benefit.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my idea with this DadWise thing. I was like, I want to be a better dad. How can I motivate myself to do this? And I was like, if I start a podcast every week, I'll have to have a conversation with another dad, and I'll have to learn and I'll have to grow. And I was like, that's a great accountability structure for me. So it's been working out so far, and it's been awesome. Yeah.
Well, and Isaac, I'll just share back to you. I think you're the 1%. As I've traveled the country, I host these Dad Awesome meetups as I travel, whether it's at a brewery or at a coffee shop or a campfire, whatever. I just pull guys together. We talk about being dads. And as I ask them, when was the last time you pulled a group of guys together around fatherhood, or pulled a group of guys around together to do something of just deeper work? As I mentioned, it could be heart stuff, could be in the area of temptation, purity, pornography. It could be whatever the area is. Sure. When was the last time you pulled a group together? And basically 99% of the guys I surveyed said, well, I've never been the leader who said, I'll go first. And so you are that person, Isaac. You said, I'll go first. And in that whole idea of learning by leading, you chose an area to go first that you're not a expert at teenage fatherhood, right? Because you don't have any teenagers, right? In fact, I'm not an expert at any of the ages of my daughters. But I think we need more. That gravitational pull is because of insecurity. I've never done it before. I don't think I'm a great dad, so I can't. I think I'm dad angry, dad awful, dad average. Often, that's how I would grade myself. I'm not grading myself as dad awesome, or you'd say the same thing. You would not say I'm wisdom in every area of fatherhood, right? But you still chose to go first, and we just need more men who say, "I'll go first. I'll do something of significance and invite other men in." And dads specifically, they choose to be on the sidelines. And I'm not saying you're a horrible dad if you haven't led a dad group or haven't led a group that helps fatherless kids. But I'm just saying, consider it. In the next year, consider doing something of where you take initiative and leadership, because whatever excuses you're giving yourself right now, and this is me talking to myself as much as your audience, the excuses are not real reasons not to go first, to initiate change and action.
Yeah, it seems like we can sit around forever and be like, oh man, I wish someone would start something, or I'm just lonely. because being a dad can be so isolating. Like we go to work, we come home, and then we're with our family, and then 10 years go by. It's like, what happened? And it's like, where did all my friends go? And it seems like a lot of men rely on their wives to like set up social interactions, and like they don't really have friends, but their wives, friends, husbands become their friends by proxy. But it can be really it's a challenge to make good connections as a man. So
well, because we're fried. It doesn't matter if you're the mom or the dad. We're fried. Like there's no extra capacity between work, between if the mom's work or the mom's work being on the home front. Either way, we're all fried. Parents in this stage like have nothing left to give. So if you haven't made a firm commitment to your leading others, or if there's not a firm commitment, you're 168 hours in the week, you will always opt towards, I'm too exhausted to go do that thing. So unless you lock in the commitments and start the thing, or like say relationally, I've got nothing to give after the other primary things of work and dad life, right? So it works though. If you commit to it and follow through, you'll find, I had the time because I made the time, because it's important.
Right. Yeah. And so I want to talk, I'm curious, are you homeschooling your kids as you travel in your RV, or how are you guys handling that?
Yeah, so kind of like my journey, I had a chance to experience both a season of being homeschooled and a season of public school, and then some private liberal arts college. So I got all three. My daughter, who's just finished third grade, she's done Montessori, she's done public school, and she's done homeschool. Okay. So we've had a chance to do all three. But the last year and a half has been all homeschool, road school. And that is one of the advantages. Part of our trip, we were on the East Coast, and I was able to join in the homeschool effort with my wife for the first couple hours of the day till about 10 a.m. before I clicked into more work mode for the nonprofit, for the ministry. Excuse me. And that like helping was so key with this season of kids. Now, not help sometimes was helping with my kindergartner's math, but overall my wife is brilliant. So I was helping with PE, like exercise, and I was helping just keep the littles, the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old, just do fun adventures with them while my wife actually did so she is she's the professor in the family. I'm the I can do little bits of help here and there with homeschool.
Yeah. Gym teacher. Yeah. My role, my wife's been homeschooling now. My oldest is 7, and then my daughter's 5. So she's doing a little bit now, but I just take the 2-year-old and take him out on walks or go play basketball or whatever, because he just will destroy the homeschool setup. Like
that's it. That's so true.
It's rough. Yeah. And he's a little monster. So I don't know. You've got all daughters, so they're probably not monsters. They're usually a little bit sweeter, but
well, I'll say with my words that they're sweet, and I'll shake my head being like, it's crazy. It's chaos.
That's awesome. Cool. Did you guys plan to have a lot of kids? Because 4 is above average, right? I think, what is it, like 1.75 is the average. But did you guys plan for a big family? Was that something you were going for?
No, there was very little planning. When we decided like we'd love to have kids, it took 2.5 years to have our first. So there was some complications and a lot of prayer. Actually, our daughters, they're gifts from God. They're answers to prayer. So it took longer, and there was some grieving in the waiting. But we're grateful for all 4 of them. My wife was like, I'm for sure done after 3. And then I just kept praying because I knew I wanted another. And it took 2 years for her to be like, okay, I'm open to 4th. So it's been one at a time, and a lot of prayer, and a lot of we're overwhelmed in every season. I do have a spreadsheet, and I don't know if this is common. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I have a spreadsheet of with my 4 girls. If they all get married, I'll get 4 boys out of the deal. Then when they're 30, they have 4 kids. And if then when their kids are 30, they have 4 kids, so I put in some inputs of number of kids, number of years in between generations, and 126 years from now. So I have a spreadsheet that shows 126 years from now. So the great grandkids, I'll actually have 620 people in the fam, and I will be dead. It's the reason I bring up the spreadsheet. It's thinking not about like I want to be famous for these 600 some, but just decisions that we make today. I feel overwhelmed as a dad. I feel like I have not been the loving dad that I could be to each of my girls. I've not been the loving husband that's pursuing my wife. Like often I feel dad awful, dad angry, dad average, right? But the commitment to I'm going to stay in the game. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep apologizing. I'm going to keep pressing back. Like the reason I bring up the spreadsheet is like the ripple effect is so much bigger than we could ever imagine if we just stay faithful, stay after the hearts of our kids. Like, so that's why I have the spreadsheet. Is not because I'm going to ever force my daughters to like, hey, you guys have to have 4 kids. Not at all. And maybe all my daughters won't get married, but I'm praying for these 4 boys. And the other part of the work we're doing, Isaac, is like the more dads that take this like role and treat it like a gift. Like, can you believe the gift? I get to be a dad. Like, can you believe it? It's crazy. Yeah. Like, if we see it as a gift versus grumble our way through the dad life. Sure. If we can get thousands of dads between the two of us, Isaac, and our 2 podcasts, if Dad Wise and Dad Awesome, if we can get thousands of dads, then some of those dads have little boys. And like you do, and maybe some of those boys will grow up to be young men who are respectful and honorable and hard workers and resilient, and would be the kind of men who my daughters would find. And so the inputs, I do all of this selfishly. I'm doing all of this because I want to help some dads raise some boys who have chosen the narrow path of like, hey, I'm gonna wait for my wife. I'm gonna honor, like, I'm gonna follow some of these wisdom principles that you talk about. So that it's all selfish to get these 4 boys.
That's awesome. I love it. Cool. So I want to ask, what was my next question? What would you say is one of the biggest struggles for dads today? Because I know there's all sorts of different things that dads struggle with, and it's different for every dad. But like as a meta picture, what do you think is kind of the biggest thing coming against dads, and how can we push against that?
It's hard to like jump right to the one, so I'll give you 2. Two.
Okay.
So one is I default towards being selfish. I am a dad who thinks about myself and grumbles internally and gets upset and irritated, and I've said dad angry a couple times here. like that's my internal game, is like, this is unfair. Like, look what I'm doing for you. And I put my 4 little precious girls in the like that they should be at a certain level, and I'm disappointed. So my eyes could portray disappointment. My words could portray disappointment. I could hurt their little hearts because I am being selfish. The core thing is I'm being selfish, and I'm being weak. Really, it comes down to I'm being weak as a dad. And so the core finding there, the core thing that I want to work on every day, I want to press into this more, is I want to be a powerful dad. I want to be a dad who brings strength to my girls, to my marriage, I actually, instead of selfish, I want to show up with strength. And actually, I feel like I'm doing that on this call right now with you, Isaac. I'm portraying like some strength, right? Well, why can't I do that with my 6-year-old? Why can't I like spend, I mean, what have we spent 30 minutes together? And I've been like kind and gracious to you this whole time. I haven't been annoyed at you one time, Isaac, right?
You haven't even yelled at me. Yeah.
And you're awesome. A stranger. You're a stranger. I mean, I did some research ahead of time. I know the work that you've done. I know I've seen a picture of your family. Like, so you're not quite as, but Isaac, like, how can I bring all of this energy and strength and passion to you, and not bring it to my 4-year-old? Like, what the heck? Like that is irresponsible and weak fatherhood. If I'm going to show them impatience, but I'm going to show you a ton of patience, right? Like, so I want to be a powerful. That's one. Is just like we can be powerful in the best kind of way. We can show up as powerful men who have grown and are growing, not perfect, but we can be powerful. So the second thing that I just feel like we need more of as dads is just like, quit taking ourselves so seriously. Just be more like, this is a gift and it's going to go away really soon. So like, laugh more, cry more, wrestle more, cancel that meeting and spend the time. Like, forget that extra little bit of income you can make with a side hustle and just like spend more time with your family. Like, take the vacation and stop looking at your email. Like, I just like, so that side, I struggle with that side too. I'm just like, what am I doing? Yeah. These are precious moments, and these little people. I'm the only one that can be their dad. Like I am the only one that they call dad. And there's other people that can go to that coffee meeting, and that I can disappoint that person. He's going to be fine. He'll be okay. Yeah. So my daddy-daughter dates, my one-on-ones have been a struggle. The last 6 months, I have really struggled to prioritize one-on-ones with my girls. Like I've really done a lousy job at doing one-on-ones. Yeah. And yet I've met a lot of people, like the time we're spending right now, and I've prioritized other people and not my little girls. Yeah. So this is I'm failing. I've really been C- has been my ranking for myself on my pursuing one-on-one time with my girls. So there you go. There's a couple things.
Yeah. So how do you talk about the one-on-one times? How do you normally do that when you're at your A game? What does that look like?
Yeah. So it's scheduling. There's a level of flexibility. My wife and I, with the age of our girls, it doesn't have to be overly scheduled, but it's game on. I'm gonna take my 4-year-old. We're going to drive down to the gas station and pick out some Tic Tacs. It can be the whole spend. It's a $2 spend, and then we're gonna play a little game we'll have a Tic Tac for every question, and we'll ask each other questions, silly questions. I mean, they're really simple. I'm looking at my mother-in-law. I'm in my mother-in-law's basement. We're on a lake here in Minnesota. A paddleboard, we can go paddleboarding one-on-one. That's a great one-on-one moment with my daughter. Playground, we can walk to the playground from the house that we're renting this summer in St. Paul, Minnesota. We can walk there and bring a fizzy water. And just bringing the fizzy water means we're going to sit and kind of take turns sipping that. Often, though, it's 3 or 4 ridiculous questions with one meaningful question. I'm just trying to laugh and ask ridiculous questions and play, would you rather? So it's these types of things. It's not overly serious at all. Yeah. But usually at some point I ask, how am I doing as dad? Is there anything that I've done to cause your heart to be sad? Is there anything I've done? And usually whatever, I've already known about it because either my wife has told me, she's great at telling me this is what you did, or I've already circled back and apologized because I knew the other day I was super crabby with my daughter. That was yesterday. She spilled some cereal. I was just crabby with her because I felt like I wanted her to ask before she got the cereal out, and I just let her have it with a little bit of sharp words. That's a little bit on the one-on-ones though. They're valuable. They're super valuable. Yeah. And my 2-year-old, she often they're not planned or scheduled, but I call them. All of a sudden I find myself one-on-one and I call it a daddy date. And then she calls it that as well. So it's just, she knows I care about one-on-one time. Yeah. Do you aim for that weekly, monthly, or just kind of as you go? Is it? So I've been in seasons of it better be at least once a month. It better be if I can't make that, because some of them are a half hour. They're not I used to walk to the end of my block to a rock and do rope swings off this boulder. There's this boulder I could do rope swings with my arm. My arm is the rope. It's not even, I don't even have to bring a rope with. And so they don't have to be long. So if they're not monthly, I'm really off my game. And that's why I graded myself so low. They've been less than monthly. The weekly is the ideal, and a cadence, some kind of a cadence of I think the last one we drew up was a twice-a-month plan for my wife and myself to have time with each of the girls. That's awesome.
Yeah, I recently chatted with Jeremy Pryor, and he talks about quantity time as well as quality time. And so he's I'm just taking my kids with me wherever I go. He'll bring them into the office, he'll take them shopping, and so he'll just grab someone and say, hop in the car, and they go. And they also set up a weekly one-on-one where everyone gets a one-on-one with someone. So some of the kids get one-on-ones, mom and daughter, and so different combos every week. Them.
Brilliant.
And he said I was that's a great way, because it's a lot of pressure for me to try to get one-on-one with everyone every week. But if everyone could get a one-on-one with everyone else, we can all kind of match up. And with 4, you have an even number. You 3 and 3. So that's it. That's
a brilliant idea, because it could just be a checkers game that my 7-year-old or my almost 7-year-old and my almost 10-year-old are having. It's just game of checkers. That's fine. I mean, and Jeremy Pryor lives it out. He took me shopping. We went to the grocery store together. The two of us, literally, I was can we get some time to hang? And he was let's go shopping together. So I was one of those that got a one-on-one by shopping. That's
perfect. Yeah. His conversation was awesome. He's doing some great stuff with the Family Teams podcasts and all that. How would you say, what are some strategies you use for staying present in your kid's life? You've mentioned that a few times. I know dads can be pretty distracted either by a phone or just mentally. How do you get yourself back to the present moment when you wander off?
Yeah, because the wander off is very common. So you got to get back.
Yeah.
You got to get back. I was doing bedtime and I help with bedtime for all four, but with my 2-year-old, before she was even 2, I was like rubbing her back while on my phone. She didn't know it because there was a curtain, but I wasn't even giving her my full presence. And my other daughters caught me and they were like, Dad, you're on your phone. You're not even like being present in the moment of rubbing this little baby's back. Like you're multitasking. So I have to get back there. Bedtime is without, phone free, not that excuse, not that example that I just shared, but like, it's a great time of the day just to make sure there's presence without a phone. The dinner table is a spot, but it's been a chaotic spot. So there's been less feeling present, more trying to manage the chaos at dinner, at least right now in our season.
You're in an RV, right? Yeah, like that's a tight spot for dinner.
Yeah, this is real. I mean, but it's also been a struggle the last month. We've been out of the RV for 1 month in a rental house, and that's also been a struggle. So I can't use the RV as my excuse. So presence. The down on the floor, the wrestling, the working out together has been a tool that helps us like connect. Let me try to think of some other like things that get me back there. I mean, there's some like learning Bible verses together, or some prayers or some songs that have helped us just kind of like press into really being present versus distracted. I really think it's like, are we fending off the commitments that cause our life to get so full? So we're going up for 10 days to a family camp, and that's going to be like, there's a lot less there are a lot of things going on at family camp, but there's a lot less pull. Like the daddy dates, the one-on-ones are going to be way easier up there because there's less things that I need to manage or people I need to meet with. It's just like I can grab those one-on-ones. I mean, my wife and I could be doing daily with somebody while we're up there for those 10 days. So that's a strategic move to get away from the rhythms of life here to Northwoods, Minnesota family camp. So these are decisions that bring more presence and more proximity and quantity time, like you already mentioned. Like it's just like be thankful versus exhausted by all the time you have with your kids, because it's also mental, it's attitude. What's the script that you're telling yourself about these moments, and are they precious and are they gifts, or are they a grind and you just got to get through them, right? What's the narrative? What are you telling yourself? Do you have like a morning routine? Because it feels like we have to reset every single day. Like every day it's like restart, remind yourself who you are, what you're doing, and that this is an important thing. Do you have something that you do every day that kind of re-centers yourself and gets yourself focused on the job ahead? This current chapter, it's not a daily. I have a couple prayers that are written, that I prayed. One from John Eldridge, one from Craig Rochelle does these declarations, and I have them on my phone, but not in a daily rhythm right now. There have been seasons that it's been a daily. I would say the daily rhythm is more the bedtime rhythm and the prayer over them. That one is consistent, and we're just our season of family. We're home for bedtime, and it's really great. I have an anchoring rhythm that's monthly, which is I take the first business day of every month as a prayer and planning day. So I look back 30 days, forward 30 days. And one of the questions I ask myself on that prayer and planning day, which it's been like 7 years I've been doing that rhythm. And I think what we're doing at Dad Awesome and Fathers for the Fatherless does not exist if it's not for that rhythm of looking back, looking forward every 30 days, and just asking for wisdom in what are the right yeses and nos. But that rhythm is an anchoring, and my girls know about it. And there was something else I was going to add, but I lost it as I got excited about the prayer and planning day.
No, that's all good. What's the family camp? Is that a Young Life camp, or what kind of?
This one's a denominational camp called Lake Geneva Bible Camp, and they've got 10 days of family. We've never gone for the whole thing before, but we thought we were going to be living in the RV all summer, so we were like, let's take the 10 days here instead of some random RV park. And then we decided we got a hold of a rental house. So we're a little bit like not super excited to be back in the RV because we've only been out of it for a month. It's like, oh, jeez, here we go.
Back at it. Yeah.
I know. I remembered the question, though, the last little thought that I lost there a second ago. It's a question that you can ask yourself of, do I want my daughters, the way they think, the way they act, the way they speak, do I want them to mimic me? So do I want their
Yeah.
thought life to be like my thought life? Do I want their words, the scripts they're saying and rehearsing? Do I want their attitude to be like me? So it's really asking this question that I think is a powerful question, because it's like, look in the mirror. What am I being?
Yeah.
How am I thinking? How am I speaking? What's my mind frame? And that is what I'm training my daughters to do. They're gonna be like, and they're gonna marry someone just like me. So it's an ongoing once a month question.
Yeah. Do I want son-in-laws like me? That's the question. Will I like hanging out with little versions of myself? That's it. That's great. That's a good question. My buddy, he wakes up and he prays. He's like, where am I messing up the most? I'm like, that's kind of a dark, negative version of that, but I guess that it gets to the same point, and it's usually pretty easy to answer that question.
It's a great question. It's a great question of just where am I falling? Where am I full of mud? Because I just hit a puddle and I took a face plant. The other just way to think about that daily, which is not daily, but it's something our church really goes after a lot, is up, out, and in. And it's the kind of prayers. And how much time am I waking up with a rhythm of like looking up, and then out, others focused? Or am I putting all my prayer life, my thought life on myself? And the more that I think dads look up at their Heavenly Father, look out at others, how can I serve, how can I help others, before we're looking in at ourselves, I think that would be a morning thing that I'd like to do more of, is really praying through that of like, man, that's how I want to calibrate my life, my day, my morning. So.
Right. Yeah. Rooting yourself in identity first, and then moving out from there. Who am I? Loved is my number one character trait. Like that's what defines me the most, and then can launch out from that. Yeah, that's awesome. Will you talk a little bit about kind of your faith journey, and I don't know how far back it goes, but then how that relates to fatherhood for you?
Yeah, the faith journey and my father experiencing, what did I experience from my dad, are kind of like they're both very influencing of what I'm doing today, and deep passions. And pain often does fuel passions. And I had an amazing dad. I had a dad who was dad awesome. He loved Jesus. And him and my mom, he didn't take much leadership on the front of discipleship with loving Jesus, but he loved Jesus, and he went to church and he prayed with our family. It was quiet. It was a quiet faith. So I learned about heaven. I learned about Jesus as a young, very young. Our family, I grew up with the direction of my eyes on heaven, and my eyes on it's not about me, it's about this gift of Jesus, and I can live for him, and I can live loved by him. So yeah, real young. But my dad brought love into fatherhood through performance. He brought a lot more love if I learned to water ski with no skis, and I learned to barefoot water ski. He brought a lot more love and cheering when I learned as a 9-year-old to barefoot water ski, and he brought a lot more love when I dunked a basketball for the first time, and when I was succeeded on the basketball court, and that. But that also led to a skewed view of God. Like, it led to me thinking, man, God loves me more when I get more men's groups started. I talked about starting a lot of things, being a starter. It's like, oh, God must love me more because look at me, I'm serving,
doing
right?
Stuff.
So, this is real. The conditional love that I'm showing that all the time to my girls. I want to father from a place of love and from unconditional love, and bring that to my girls. But I still there's a tension there often, because that's what I experienced. So faith journey, fatherhood journey. My dad and I didn't talk at all most of my freshman year of college, because I didn't play basketball at the collegiate level. I was recruited to play, and I didn't play, and that brought a huge separation in our father-son relationship. It was severed. We didn't talk because he was so disappointed. So there's pain. But there's also some beautiful healing. There was reconciliation around that. Beautiful healing I launched the first episode of Dad Awesome 5.5 years ago, and the next day, my dad rushed to the hospital. He was healthy. He rushed to the hospital with brain cancer and lung cancer. That all came to the surface the day after I launched Dad Awesome, and then I launched episode 100, and the next day my dad went home to heaven. So the journey. The journey of Dad Awesome, the foundational 100 weeks of this organization, this ministry, this movement is the last 100 weeks I had with my dad here. And it was a healing journey. It was wild how much healing we experienced. And he was a champion for this cause. He listened to, watch the episodes of Dad Awesome. And so there's a lot of like the pain fueled a lot of healing and a lot of passion. And I carry a pocket knife inspired by Morgan Snyder from Wild at Heart and Become Good Soil. And every time I feel the pocket knife in my pocket, I think I'm still being fathered by God. My Father, my Heavenly Father, is still fathering me, is the phrase I say. So it's just one of those positive triggers that reminds me I've got pain in my past around this relationship with my dad. But my Heavenly Father is perfect, and He's still fathering me in all these areas of insecurities and weakness. And man, I'm struggling here. So I think it's the faith journey. Father, it's amazing, and by sharing that, like that's what we're setting up for our kids. And we're not. There's no way we can do it perfectly, but we can show a sliver of what our Heavenly Father is like through our humble. Just keep pursuing their hearts.
Yeah, that's awesome. How are you've talked about pursuing their hearts a couple times. What are some of the ways you do that? You talked about daddy-daughter dates. Are there other ways that you go after that, and how do you think about that?
Yeah, it's words. It's blessing them. It's a lot of times it's grabbing onto specifically my 6-year-old. It's touch, grabbing onto her hand and look her right in the eyes and just tell her, "I love you. You are a treasure. Our family is so much better because you're a part of our family. Like I can't believe I get to be your dad. Like it's such a gift. Like you are beautiful. Man, you are such a hard worker. Like it's amazing to see your strength and how hard you worked at that thing. So it's not blessing based on conditions like she did this or didn't do this or it's like no, these are things that are true of her character and that's her identity as she's a loved daughter in our home. And so it's those things are ways that we pursue their hearts. I mean, apologizing, if that's the same daughter that I kind of snapped at for spilling cereal, like it's apologizing. It's all those ways are pursuing their hearts, turning back to them versus being annoyed or frustrated. It's like, no, I'm going to turn back and I'm going to pay attention to their eyes. Like this is a big tool that I've learned is we pay attention to your kids' eyes. Are they shining? And if they're not, look at your own eyes. Are your own eyes shining? And if I've moved in as a dad to grumbling my way through fatherhood or just trying to get through it, if I stop seeing the dad role as a gift, a treasured gift, then my eyes are going to go dull. I'm going to just and this could be impacted through, man, you made a stupid decision at what you looked at on the internet. Like that will cause your eyes to go dull in a hurry. Or you've made a lack of integrity decision or man, you've just like stopped prioritizing brotherhood and friendship. Like your eyes will go dull as a dad. And it happens. Yeah. We all stumble. But if your eyes are dull and you stop seeing your kids as gifts, then their eyes will actually stop sparkling, stop shining. And like it's like, man, to pursue their hearts, like this means we're stoking that flame in our kids of passion and of, man, they know they're loved. And so that's me rambling around that whole thing, but that's awesome. It all matters.
Yeah. Did you interview Bob Goff recently? Because I think I listened. I was scrolling through your Instagram stuff, and he talked about like the father's role of like as hovering over, like he like compared it to the Genesis 1 deal, and like how you hover over your kids and like become experts at their gifts and their skills and their like who they are. You're kind of a hovering. I love that analogy.
Isaac, that analogy, I have not retold that story though. Like I shared that podcast a year and a half ago or whatever. And I forget. It's amazing. My wife tells me, she's like, why don't you put into practice some of the things you're learning in your podcast? And I'm like, thank you. But it's so true. I mean, I hope to put into practice 1 out of 10 things that I learned because I learned so many. Like I'm learning so much. I'm hoping for 1 out of 10. Yeah. But like that's the 9. That's number 9 out of 10. Like I have not put like that framework. I'm so glad you brought it up because that's such a tool is to learn and use that that framework of like, man, I want to hover and I want to learn and be curious is what he was inspiring with that. So I'm so thankful you brought that up. That's a great practical way to think about it.
Well, good. I'm glad I dug through your Instagram. Curiosity I think is a big thing, and that's kind of I feel like that's kind of the spark in the eye is when you have curiosity and an interest in life and a passion for your children. I think those are the big things, and you can stumble your way through the rest if you're just trying. Like that's a big a big part of being a father. Yeah.
I've heard the phrase, one of my mentors says, feelings follow focus. And it's after this Bible verse of basically what your heart tends to, or what you focus on, your heart will follow. I can't recall the Bible reference to this, but feelings follow focus. I mean, I actually checked before we hopped on this podcast interview because I didn't know if it was video and audio. I checked the focus on my camera because I do it manual so it doesn't fly all over the place when I'm moving my hands. And like focus, so I focused in and I looked right at like my glasses or my eyes. Like, is it in focus? Is it not? Like our focus, what are we looking at? Well, if we're staring at something long enough, if we're curious, is what you just said, like curiosity and focus, we will grow. Our heart will be stoked and more passion, more feelings. The feelings follow focus. And so it's like, what are you focused on? And if you're focused on binging that Netflix series, or if you're focused on a big project at work, if that is all your focus, that's where your deep passion and your feelings and your heart is going to be. If you're focusing on a coworker that's not your wife, like that, your feelings are going to follow that focus. So what are we focused on? Yeah, that's what we got to pay attention to.
Yeah. I feel like that's like the best marriage advice I've ever gotten too, is like, you got to be curious about your wife and keep pursuing. Like, don't let off the gas. Keep digging. Keep cultivating.
You did a great video on marriage. Your video was solid. Thank you. You got a little fiery in that video on marriage advice.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that if anyone wants to see it.
Do it.
We're kind of getting towards the end here. Do you have any books you're reading, or if a dad is kind of wanting to dig deeper into this, a book you've read that's been helpful for you? Resources that you could point people towards?
Yeah, and we're grateful. We're doing, after 5.5 years of a website that was built by some friends for free. There's like, let's help you guys. We've got a website that's going to be a resource vault of all of like the top findings. You can search by topic, and that's all going to go live here in a few weeks. So probably by the time this airs, the new Dad Awesome website will have a resource tab that has all those books. But anytime I hear about a dad who like finds a book that's helpful and just like decides to grab some other dads and go through it, I'm just like, man, someday when I write my first book, I don't care at all if it's my book or it's one of these other books. So like there's Morgan Snyder's book, Becoming a King. It's like, John Tyson's book, The Intentional Father, Robert Lewis's book, Raising a Modern Day Knight. I mean, there are Chris Bruno out with Restoration Project wrote a book called The Man Maker Project. I mean, just find a book. I mean, Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. Those guys are up in your ear. Brooke Moser, his Diane and Phil Comer. It's funny. Brooke is my buddy. He's their son-in-law. But their ministry is called Intentional Parenting. Intentional. Okay. Man, their book is phenomenal. So there's a lot out there. And there will always need to be a lot, because this topic, we need to keep dive in again. I mean, Jeremy Pryor's, the last 2 books, and the book he's writing right now, he's releasing for free. If you're on his email list, like, you just get a chapter for free as they come out. Like his books are like, I just re-listen to them. I just re-listen to Jeremy Pryor's books over and over. And it's like this is so helpful. So there you go. I gave you 6.
That's awesome. I was trying to write them down, but I'll just rewatch to get them. Are you involved with the Restoration Project? Have you been involved with that group?
We partnered for our Front Range Fathers for the Fatherless bike ride out there in Fort Collins, Colorado for 2 years in a row. This year we're taking a little step back just with some other focuses, but those guys are solid gold. Love those guys. And Chris Bruno is a champ. I mean, I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times, and love those guys. Do you know those guys?
Yeah, I shoot real estate photography, and so one of the real estate agents I work with came from Colorado. And he was like, we're starting a Grove thing if you want to come to it. And so they did the first Pacific Northwest Grove this last year, and I was at that. And so I got a bunch of the books, and I was awesome.
Those are your guys to get to do the Spartan Fathers. Those are your guys. Get the Grove guys. Yeah. They're awesome.
I'll have to talk to Justin about that. If you're listening, Justin, we're going to do it. Cool. Any parting words for fathers out there as we kind of wrap this up? A nugget
a piece of advice, anything you want to say?
Oh man, I'm out of it. I truly have. I feel like I've gone fire hose of just like some of my top. Like you asked great questions, and Isaac, I'm so grateful. Anyone who listened this far to the conversation, because I mean, you have so many. There are so many things that could pull your attention. If you as a dad listened this far to the conversation, I mean, I'm just like celebrating you. Like the cheer. We talk about the cheer zone. Like heaven. It celebrates you. Your wife, if you're married, the grandparents, your community celebrates. Like we celebrate you because if you've chosen to listen this far to a podcast about intentional fatherhood, like you are bringing your heart into this, saying, I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep growing. And like, so I just like, we're not, dads aren't, I'm actually pulling a group of 4 guys together that are all having their first baby in the next like 4 months. Nice. So I just met these guys and I'm like, it's funny because I am 41 years old. I meet less guys who are having their first baby, but I just met 4 individual guys. So I'm pulling them all together. We're going to pray over them, but I'm going to pull 8 other guys like me who have been after it for a little bit. We're you know, have young kids, and we're going to bring a gift, a word of wisdom, and then we're going to pray over these young guys. So I'm going to 2 to 1, That's 2 awesome. Dads that are older to 1. But when I say the cheer zone is loud, I want these 4 young dads, they're just becoming, they haven't even held their baby yet. Their wife is pregnant. Yeah. I want them to feel so cheered for and so like, and that's what I want the guys listening right now to feel a little bit of that. Is like you can do it. Like it's hard. The dad life is hard. You feel dad average almost every day. You feel average. But no, you are dad awesome. You are dad wise. Like you listen this long, like you are rocking it. And the 620 great grandkids that maybe will be at some point in the 120 years from now, like it matters every day, your decision to be the dad that you're being right now by listening this long of like, I'm all in. So way to go. I'm cheering for you.
I love it. Cool. Well, thanks for joining me. I think that's all the time we have. I'm sure we'll chat again someday. But thanks for jumping on with me.
It's been an honor. Awesome.